Give it up for Diego.
Okay, cool. So I'm Diego, like you said. We're gonna have a chat about some of my thoughts, and maybe you guys will like them. We'll see. So navigating the business frontier of emerging technologies. It's a lot of buzzwords. We'll break down what I'm actually gonna talk about. Why should you care what I have to say? I graduated from here. I actually was at iHub when it wasn't built, so I'm kind of old, but I remember how this got created. So I was around a while ago, got an MIS degree in entrepreneurship from Jim Moran, then I came back and got an MS. So I have some degrees. I briefly worked at Deloitte, which is like important to some people. It's a pretty big company. And then I got into startups after that. So today, I mostly spend my time running after Lucas, who's the guy in the lab coat, if you guys know who that is. So we have a company, we do a bunch of stuff. Atlantic Labs is hardware, R&D, 3D printing. Sightbolts is tech consulting. And Arcvale is a game studio, and we do a lot of stuff here at the iHub, so you guys might have seen that one around. So we do a lot of shit. Oh, I don't know if I can curse, sorry. Okay, so what am I actually talking about? We have been trying to figure out how to make money sustainably by doing new technology, right? That's all what that means. And so there's no playbook on how to do that. No one actually has a textbook on how you do that well. So I've been the last couple of years trying to figure out how do you formalize this and run a business doing all these crazy stuff. So I found a researcher who studied decision making by experts in real world environments. And basically she wrote down things that me and Lucas have been thinking about for a while. So I was like, okay, maybe someone knows what's going on. So we're gonna be talking about supply, which is how, demand, which is who and why, and then capital, which is money, right? That's what that means. So supply is the how. This is what you're actually gonna be doing. What makes you the money and why do you exist? This is internal, industry specific. So if you have a t-shirt company, how you do your internal operations is very different from how a software company does their things. But the commonality is that you are doing something internally that is unique and is making money in the market. And so what does this actually mean? It's your business model, how you make money, how you do things every day. Like when you get up and go to work, what is your business doing? Organization design, how you organize your people, your teams, all that good stuff. Product development, which is how you make the thing that you are selling. And decision making, which is how do you make decisions. So regardless of industry or technology, there's some things that I have found, whether it's making robots, making apps, or just fixing someone's printer. There's some things that are very consistent no matter what. So plans are useless, but planning is invaluable. So I've never had a plan that we made on day one that remained the same on day 90. So in your classes, if you guys are in the business school or even that, they'll tell you make a business model, write all these things down. The end result does not matter because it's gonna change in a month. But the process of writing it and planning is everything. That's how you clarify your thinking. That's how you figure out if your idea is any good. So don't feel like you have to create crazy long business model documents or Excel spreadsheets. It's fine if they're simple, but the exercise of making them is what's really important. So you always have to balance speed, quality, and cost. A lot of people seem to think that the world is magic, and if you have a great idea, you'll get a bunch of money and you'll build it, and then you are Mark Zuckerberg. You're always gonna have to sacrifice something. If you wanna go fast, it's gonna be expensive, and it might not be as good as you dream of in your head. If you wanna make something super polished and amazing, it's probably gonna take you longer. So any project you do, regardless of the technology or the space, you need to have that just always in your brain. You're always making trade-offs between those three things. Third, kind of adds to that first point, when you're making your plans and your models and you're having these daydreams of your business or your product, start with costs. Profits are not guaranteed, but costs are, right? Like if you're doing something risky, you don't know someone's gonna buy it, but it's gonna cost you money to make it in the first place. So start with your costs. It'll save you a lot of trouble later on. And it cannot be a one-man show. You're always gonna need people, whether it's someone you hire, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a teacher. Like at no point will you be able to do it by yourself. So if you internalize that early, you will make better decisions, right? Because you won't go for a full year trying to take your idea. So you're good. Oh, okay. Yeah. So like if you know you're gonna need a team, it's so much easier to build that team instead of spending a year being like, oh, I can do it by myself. I'll do the tech, I'll do the design, I'll do everything. It's impossible, right? So if you understand that early on, it'll be a lot easier to build that team. So there's a lot of words on these. I'm not good at decks, so don't feel like you have to read these. I'm going to talk about it, but yeah, write things down. Like I said, the exercise of writing is very important. The documents will change. The business model is going to change. But as you write it, you start figuring out where the holes in your thinking are, and you can address that as it evolves. So write things down, make prototypes. I think this is the biggest thing that I learned from the iHub, because we took a lot of classes like design thinking and all that stuff. I'm not gonna teach design thinking right now, but it all boils down to like make things as cheap and as fast as possible, give them to someone and see what they say, right? You got an idea for an app, sketch it out, show it to your friend. Hey, would you use this app? The faster you can figure out if your idea is good or not, the faster you can go to something that actually is good if it ends up being bad, the first idea. So it's easy in software these days because you can chat GPT, hey, can you design a React component or something, and it'll do it for you. So you can like make things really, really fast. It's a little different in hardware, like when we do, but 3D printing speeds up a lot of things, right? So every sector of technology has different requirements on making prototypes. So it can be a little bit harder depending on your project, but either way, the faster you figure out how to make prototypes and show them to people, the quicker you can actually make something good. And that leads to fail early and fail quickly. It's fine to fail. And when we start new initiatives, new projects, or like new products, anything we're building, I want to build something fast and give it to someone and see if it sucks. If it sucks, I'm actually happy that they told me right away. That's important, right? Get honest feedback. Because the longer you delude yourself into thinking that you have a good idea, the longer you are keeping yourself from finding the actual good idea. So fail early, fail fast, and eventually you might actually have a good idea and that one won't fail. And build learning systems, very buzzwordy. Basically, whenever you learn something from that failure, write it down so that someone else that isn't you has learned the lesson as well. Because nothing is good if it's stuck in your head and you got like 5 other people in your company and no one knows what you've learned. So do a Google Doc that everyone has access to, build a CRM, I don't know, right? Like just figure out a way to share what you know with your people as fast as possible. Because if you get hit by a bus, what are they gonna do, right? So that was supply. Demand is who and why, right? So supply is what you are doing internally, your business model, your activities, all that fun stuff. Demand is everything else. Who's your customers? What market are you in? Who's your competition? Is now the right time? All these questions are things that determine your success that are not actually in your control, right? You can't control necessarily if the economy crashes and no one wants to buy your really cool AI app, right? Like it's not gonna work. So the more you understand these things, the better you can build yourself up so that they won't like knock you off your voice, basically. So to that point, what are some ideas that help us answer these questions? Know your enemy is basically just like you gotta know who your competitors are. If you're building in real estate, you gotta figure out who the best real estate companies are and why they're the best. Why are they better than you potentially? You should know that like the back of your hand. Your opinion can be a moat. Maybe you're building something someone else has built already, but the reason it's better is because you have a unique perspective on the area. So you might build the exact same app as somebody else, but because you have a strong opinion about that particular sector, maybe you have the problem yourself, and so you just like feel really strongly about how to do something, that you could be the exact same company as somebody else, and that could be what makes you win. So have opinions, have strong opinions. Maybe they'll be wrong, and that goes into failing fast, but you should have a take on something, right? If you're making a medical product, I really hope you have some sort of reason why you're building it and why you believe your solution to that problem is better than everybody else. And this ties back to earlier, like what if the economy kind of crashes and we're all, I can't curse, so never mind. So it's not just what, but when, right? Like if you're building an AI product 5 years ago, you probably were gonna fail, right? ChatGPT wasn't out, all the LLMs were not created, and so you're working with like technology that just wasn't quite there yet. So your idea could have been great. You could have had people that want to give you money, but you like couldn't build it. It just wouldn't be a good product because of technology. So that's bad timing. Uber couldn't have been created before it was because no one had mobile phones with enough like signal and the ability to like use an app. So you could have thought of Uber in 1999. You would not have ended up where they ended up because it was the wrong time. So you should understand the trends, both positive and negative in whatever area you're in. And if it ends up being that you failed, it could just be the timing. And that's fine if you fail fast and fail quick because you can move on to something that it maybe is suited for that time. And the last thing, be comfortable with ambiguity. If you're building something innovative or an emerging tech, all these fun buzzwords, inherently, like I mentioned, there's no textbook. No, if someone knew how to do it, they would have done it and made the money you're trying to make, right? So if you're comfortable with not knowing every single step of the way, it's a lot easier to pivot. If you're comfortable with saying, okay, I don't know the answer today, but we can do A, B, and C until we get the answer, and that'll keep us moving forward, that's an advantage. A lot of people aren't comfortable with that. That's why they don't do well in startups, because if you're in an early stage team where there's 5 people and everyone has to do every job, there's no one telling you, hey, today I need you to do this spreadsheet and it's gonna be due at 3 and then you're gonna need to do this and giving you this step-by-step thing. That doesn't exist in these fields, in these spaces. You need to be okay not being given directions and instead saying, okay, this is the problem. I gotta sit down and figure out how I'm gonna fix it. And if you can't figure it out, that's fine. Maybe the problem's too hard. But no one has given you instructions. You come to that conclusion yourself. So, broad ideas. How do you actually do this on a day-to-day? Competitive intelligence. If you're in Jim Moran classes in the College of Business, you might have done competitor analysis where they just ask you to find a bunch of companies. Like I said, this will change. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you should do the exercise. Find those companies that are your competitors. Know why they're good, know why they're bad, and just be super comfortable with who they are at all times. Again, understand your market timing. There's this graph called the adoption curve that you've probably seen in your textbooks where it's like early adopters, the majority. You should know who you're building for. If you're building a new type of therapeutic robot like Lucas does sometimes, the hospitals aren't buying that today, right? So you're not building that for the hospitals. You're building that for whoever the early adopter in your space is. If you're building accounting solutions for Fortune 500 companies, those are definitely like late adopters. You can start selling them tomorrow because they already know the product you're selling. They already know they need it, so you can just go to them right away. So know who you're building for. Same thing, third, another buzzword, ideal customer profiles. Just like, who are you building for? If you're making an app for like young adults in the northeastern United States, then you're gonna build it a certain way. If you're building it for an international market, for like geriatrics, you're gonna build something different. So before you start doing very intense development, you should have 2 or 3 like very specific people that you're building for. Have them in your head very clearly, and that will dictate how you're gonna build what you're gonna build. And so that goes with the market timing. If you know that you're building for early adopters, then your ICPs, the people you're building for, are probably gonna have a certain type of profile or demographic versus building for the late adopters, right? They're gonna be a little bit different. So you should have these, they'll change. Naturally, they'll change. But the clearer you have these in your head, the better you'll be able to move fast and probably build something that people actually want and will give you money for. And then test your market. Goes back to the prototype idea. You've got your timing, you've got your customer profiles, test the theory. If you know you're building for people in Wisconsin, figure out a way to get people in Wisconsin a hand on your thing right away and figure out if you have the right theory behind your market. Because maybe you thought you should build for Wisconsin and it turns out people in California want it. Okay, well, the quicker you figure that out, the better. So they'll kind of tie into one another. All right, this is the most boring one. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Capital is the financial resources that power your business, right? It's cash. It's like how you're gonna pay for the things you're doing. If you're not in the College of Business or in Jim Moran, even if you're in Jim Moran, you might not get exposed to it that much. You probably just don't learn this stuff in class. And so it's not as intuitive as maybe, building a user profile. If you took design thinking, you know sort of what I'm talking about there, so maybe you understand a little bit clearer. But capital tends to be the field that we're not exposed to as much. So that makes it a little bit different than the first two. But it's everything about how money flows through your business. What you control and what you don't control. Because money, you don't always control it. So how does money come in and go out? That's pretty simple. How do you make money? That's profit, that's revenue. Why are they giving you money and why? And how does it go out? How much does it cost you to do the thing that's causing someone to give you money? If you're gonna know anything about your business or your project, I would recommend knowing how much money you're making, how much you're losing. That you should know that always. And you'd be surprised, some people do not. So how are you getting financing, which is a different type of money than the first one? The first money is profit, loss, revenue. That's cash or something else that people give you in exchange for a service or product. Financing is a fun, mysterious third thing, which is investment, loans, or grants. People in suits will make it more complicated than that, but that's kind of what it boils down to. So that ties into who? So if you're getting a loan, probably from a bank. If you're getting investment, it might be from some rich dude in California, right? Like these people will be different. But regardless of a unique situation around money, some things will never change. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Again, if we go back to our dream scenario where we have the idea for Facebook and people give us money and then we are rich and Mark Zuckerberg and own Hawaii, that never happens. And that's because no one ever is going to give you money for no reason. If they're going to give you money, they want something in return. If it's a loan, you better pay it back. And if you don't, they might break your legs, I don't know. But never approach a situation seeing anyone giving you money as a gift. Or, oh my God, this guy's so generous, he believes in me, we're gonna do great things together. At some point, they're gonna come calling for something. So approach every interaction just having that in mind. The reason I say explicitly, because you might be thinking oh, everyone knows that you should not take money from someone and expect it to be a gift. We get really excited, don't we, when we have an idea or a product and people are like, oh my God, that's great. You definitely gotta do the thing you wanna do. And everyone's gung-ho and enthusiastic. And that's when we forget that. And we're like, oh, everyone thinks my app is amazing and they wanna give me money and I definitely know what's going on and no one's ever gonna pull one over me. That's when these things happen and that's when things can turn hostile. So again, just keep that in mind always. Cash is oxygen. I mean, you guys are pretty young, so you know Uber and Lyft and I don't know, all the food companies that deliver food and everything. And do you guys remember how when it first started, it was a $5 Uber and it was amazing and now it's $50 to go down the street? All those companies were given outside money before they generated a profit and they subsidized the rides. They said, okay, well, actually it cost us $20, but all these investors gave us money, and so now we can pay part of it for our customers, and so to them it's only $5. they were not profitable. A lot of companies, like this seems simple, right? Like you need cash, right? Like a business needs to make more money than it burns. It seems like everyone knows this, but actually most companies that we are aware of as like amazing tech startups do not turn a profit ever. And that's fine if you can find another rich guy to give you money every 6 months, but eventually at some point, you need to have cash in the bank. And so many people go their entire lives not coming to that conclusion, but like, yes, it's crazy that I have to say this, but I think I do. You have to make more money than you burn, and you need cash in the bank, preferably like at least 2 years worth. But like cash is oxygen. And that really does tie into the third point, which is that like raising money from investors or getting a loan can hurt you as much as it can help you. You might think, oh wait, what? If someone gives me $1 million, there's no way that's a bad thing. But it's like the equivalent of running really fast in a bad direction or in the wrong direction. Like if you have a bad idea and you get a bunch of money to subsidize that idea, all you're gonna do is burn that money pursuing a bad idea. And maybe you don't care because maybe you got a nice salary out of it, but like it's generally not good to burn through millions of dollars. So if someone is offering it to you, don't just take it. And you might be like, oh, no one's ever offered me $1 million, so I don't think this is useful to me. If you guys are in this space, at some point, you will be raising capital. And you will have to ask yourself, is this what I should be doing? And if you kind of just assume that you should take every $1 million someone hands you, I know we all want it right now, but like it can help as much as it can hurt, right? It's the equivalent of running really fast in the wrong direction. So those are my big ideas around capital. How do we actually do stuff with it on the day-to-day? So I talked earlier how we don't really, unless you're not in the College of Business, you probably don't see this on the day-to-day because you're not in accounting classes, but like you should learn to read financial statements, right? Super fun. Income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement. I know this is super boring. They just tell you how your company's doing. You should learn how to read them. Like even if you're not gonna take a class, watch a YouTube video. God knows there's enough of them. Just, you know, you don't have to be an expert. You can hire a CPA, but when you hire your CPA, you're probably gonna like need to answer questions that he asks you about your business, or like, where she says, hey, so why is your balance sheet say this instead of that? And you're like, oh, what's a balance sheet? She probably is not gonna wanna work with you, right? So learn how to read these things, understand the health of your company through all these perspectives, and you will be better off as a designer, programmer, marketer, whatever your role is. Get comfortable with this stuff. Once you can read them, make your own. I keep saying it. You're going to make documents that will change and will never stay the same, but you should write your own financial statements. If all you have is an idea and you're not making money yet, pretend. Make financial models about what it looks like if your dreams come true. Make a model that looks like what if no one's dreams come true and you fail, right? Like you should know what the best case scenario looks like and the worst case scenario and everything in between money-wise. The more you know all these scenarios, the more you'll be okay if something crazy happens, like a pandemic, and your app idea that required people living like and going to public places now has people living at home for the next 2 years, right? Like if you know your financial situation, you can make better decisions about what happens when unexpected things happen. And last point on it, don't be afraid of it. And I think if you guys are gonna leave with anything from today, I would want it to be this. Don't be afraid of the topic of money, the idea of making money, the idea of losing money, financial statements, all this stuff that maybe is very intimidating if you're a designer or in software, all this stuff, like maybe it is intimidating and so you're always like, I'll just let the business person handle that. Or, oh, I'll hire someone to do that because I am an artist and, you know, I don't care about any of that. If you let someone else handle it, you're giving them a chance to just like not act in the best way towards you. You're putting yourself at a disadvantage. So don't be afraid of it. You don't have to be an expert. No one's saying go and get an MBA right now. But like, I don't know, find a company you think is cool and look up their balance sheet. Figure out what it means. it's a good exercise. And whether you do a startup or just go work at a company or just like live in the modern society that we do where financial situations find you every day, if you're not scared of it, you can get really good at it faster than you ever thought. So, I don't know. It seems boring, but read a balance sheet. It'll help you out. All right. So, I've said a lot of words to you guys, many of them boring, such as navigating the business frontier of emerging technologies. What does this mean? It means making decisions, usually in environments where you don't know much of anything, and it's probably changing the very moment you're thinking about it. Like, if you're in tech right now, like, everything changes every day. OpenAI releases a new thing. Like, it changes, like, minute by minute. So, unlike a traditional company or business, making decisions in that environment is very different. And so we went over how we make some of those decisions. But the really important thing is not each of these by themselves. Because you could be really good at the how. Let's say you have a great idea and you're a really good developer. So you're amazing at the how. You made the app, you know exactly who it's for, it's like all going great. But if you're not good at the why or the capital, you're not gonna do well, right? You build an app that everyone likes but loses money every day. Or you build an app and you took the money from the wrong person, and they came back and broke your legs because you couldn't pay them back, and now your app is dead. So it's less about being an expert at everything and understanding how they relate to one another. And I don't know, we got some minutes. We can walk through some examples. Can I look at my notes? Yes, cool. Sick, but you guys are still seeing that, whatever. This is not good. That's fine, I'll just talk through it. You guys can look at my tabs if you want. Some scenarios. Let's say you have a really cool brand and you sell merch, t-shirts, hoodies, whatever. Your business model probably doesn't require investment capital because you can just, print your shirts somewhere pretty cheap. You have all the idea, you do all the work, you don't have to pay anybody. So you don't need investors. You can just go to market right away and you can do really, really well. And let's say you do, and you're making money for yourself, everything's going great. And so your how and your why and your capital situation is set up in a certain way. But let's say you want to expand into other type of merch, maybe mugs, maybe, I don't know, insert whatever other thing is in clothing there. And you want to manufacture it yourself because, I don't know, maybe your brand is all about the US, and so part of your brand appeal is we make everything in the country. And so that is a drastically different situation because now you're not just printing shirts, you need to make things. And T-shirt money's pretty good, but it's not enough to build the factory. And so at that point, you need to ask yourself, if my how and my why are changing, my capital is gonna change. And so maybe I should find an outside investor because all these other things have changed. Does that make sense? I feel like it. Right? So that's what I mean by understanding the relationship. A lot of people think, I have this great idea, people will buy it, and I will be rich in perpetuity, right? But Amazon started selling books, and now I don't even know what they don't sell. So these things are always gonna change, and the ones that survive, because there's a bajillion Amazons that died along the way, are the ones that understand when and how things have to change, and how that affects one another. So this is the last slide. I have talked at you guys quite a bit. I'll take questions if you want. Anyone have them? Sweet.
Thank you so much, Diego.